Welcome back to Season 2 of the Adaptive Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Hotho, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Candice Arnone. Candice is a neuro-major adaptive athlete with right side hemiplegic cerebral palsy, but she also works as a grant officer for a major nonprofit, managing large foundation and corporate funds. She studied nonprofit management at the New School in New York City. Now you might be wondering, why am I starting with that part of her background? Well, not only is she an amazing athlete and a big part of the adaptive CrossFit community, but she also has a very distinct set of skills and backgrounds that is important to something that I want to focus on this season in particular in the podcast. And that's fundraising and sponsorships for adaptive athletes. How to make the ask without the stigma, how to build real relationships, and how to make that happen for yourself. So Candice and I have a great conversation, and she gives us a really simple framework that you're going to pick up later in the conversation that helps her think about how to ask for funds from a donor or how to make that connection with someone who might be interested in fundraising or being a part of sponsoring you as an adaptive athlete. Check it out. Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast. I'm here with Candice Arnone. Candice, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I'm excited to have you on to talk about being an adaptive athlete, to talk about what you do for work and how that intersects with what I think a lot of adaptive CrossFit athletes are asking about. So we're going to get into that in a second. But first, I want to hear about your experience as an adaptive athlete. You've been a part of this community for a long time. How did you find this community and what makes you an adaptive athlete?
So I'll keep this short since we're focusing on fundraising, but I got into CrossFit around 2012. My boyfriend, now husband, was really trying to get me into like some sort of like exercise program. And the place that was next to him, there were these kids running outside doing laps, and there was this thing called CrossFit. And he was like, I checked it out. I think you should do it. And it might help your ankle. My ankle was really hurting. I live in New York City, and I would take the subway. And after an hour, my ankle would really, really hurt. So I went to a specialist for CP in the city. And I said, my boyfriend wants me to do this CrossFit thing. I don't know. Like, should I do it? Should I just like consider other therapies for CP and that, or should I try? And the doctor was like, Candice, like, just exercise, give it a shot. So I started working out there, and my first workout was Fran, and I was hooked. I loved it because it was less than 5 minutes. It was the first workout I ever did. And back then, that gym, that box would do it once a month, I think.
Oh my gosh.
They would do it just to kind of benchmark themselves. It was crazy, but I loved it. And then how to follow that. So I then did CrossFit for a few years, took a small break, came back, and then saw like this explosion of adaptive athlete. Like before, when I left, wheel wob was a little bit of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
ATA was starting to hit the ground running, but like it wasn't what it was today. So when I came back in 2020, kind of looking around, seeing what I could do, I started looking at wheel wod. I was doing their COVID workout. So there's this massive community. Before there was no community. I was the only person. And I was also at the same time doing I got my ATA certification at the same time, just to I was really trying to get myself back into the routine of exercise while there was a pandemic. It was wild. So that's the background on me. And then I haven't stopped. I went back to the box about a year later. And then I just keep continuing to work out now. Thank you.
Yeah. And so to paint the picture for you as an adaptive athlete, you have hemiplegic cerebral palsy, just like me on the right side of your body, but yours is a bit more impacted or something like that because you're in the neuro-major category. Is that right?
That's right. So when I was born 30 weeks early, perfectly healthy baby, went home. My parents went out one night, first date night. Babysitter took me to a mall, and I contracted bacterial meningitis. My parents never contracted it. I was very, very sick for about a year and a half. I was paralyzed on my right side. And over time, that became like CP. Like I started getting feeling back and that kind of thing. But all four of my limbs are impacted. But I personally just view myself as like hemiplegic, but there are situations where all 4 limbs can come out for sure.
Sure. And you were talking about, living in the city, taking the subway, walking a lot, your ankle hurting. My sister used to live in the Upper East Side. And so when we would go visit her, and we would be putting in those miles, right? Walking through the city, because I refuse to Uber because I'm stingy sometimes.
Sure.
I was hurting at the end of those days.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Even now when I work in the city, I walk typically about 5 miles a day. Now with CrossFit and everything like that, I'm fine, but it can take a lot out of you, even as an able-bodied person.
Yeah. Well, before we hop into what you do for work, and how that kind of connects with what we're going to talk about, I just figured I love New York City. New York City is amazing. And this is a beautiful time of year to be in New York City. What's one of your favorite things to do in New York City?
Oh my gosh, that's such a question. What's one of my favorite? I've lived in New York. I wouldn't call myself a New Yorker, but I basically am. About 20 years. My favorite thing to do in New York City. I think it goes back to my 20s. Like, I love going to the Village, if you know, like 14th Street, and that's where my degree in nonprofit management is from. So like the new school was around that area. And so it's just like a kitschy little place. I like to walk around and do those kinds of things. Yes, I go to Broadway shows. I'm very lucky to do those kinds of things. And I can go on a whim if I so choose.
Yeah.
But I enjoy just going to bookstores and going to comic book stores and doing that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a geek.
No, I love that. When we would visit, that's all I wanted to do. We would go to some boutique fitness classes, go see a couple of Broadway shows, and then go sit in coffee shops or bookstores. And It seemed like we were there for Thanksgiving one year, and it was like, what do we want to do for dinner? Anything. The world is right in front. Just some of my best memories are in that city.
My mother is obsessed right now about Christmas dinner because I'm going to be in at home. And she's like, oh, I looked for you. I was going to get you something for Christmas dinner, but it's very expensive. I said, Mom, I'll just order Chinese. It's all right. Chinese is always open on Christmas Day.
Always available.
Exactly.
All right. Well, let's talk about what you do for work.
Sure. So it's going to sound very elusive, but I can't use names of my work organization. So I'm a grant officer for a major nonprofit, and my clients are trillion-dollar foundations or corporations, depending on what I'm focused on. As I said to you prior to the recording, I've been watching Mad Men. So think about it like accounts, right? I have these different fundraising accounts, right? And they often pretty big numbers. So what I do there is I manage their funds for them to make sure everything's on the up and up with the IRS. And I've done grant writing and I've done volunteer stuff like that before, or I've been paid for it too. But my jam is doing the grant management side. And the reason I say that is it's a lot less stress than grant writing. Grant writing, you have to get that $1 million or get that $20 million. And if it's not done and you lose the contract, it's it's such a letdown almost. On the grant management side, everything's already funded. So you just get to have the fun.
So you work with these funds for these foundations, and you kind of, you have experience, I think, with how this money then makes a difference.
Yes. Go ahead.
So draw that thread for me, because when we started talking about, your connection with the podcast and what we're trying to do here, it was, hey, I think I might have something that can help CrossFit athletes, adaptive athletes that are looking to fundraise or build sponsorships. How does this background that you have kind of speak into that a little bit?
Sure. So the way that works is in the nonprofit world, and some people listening might know this and some may not. So there's a method called LIA, and that is link, interest, and ability. And it's a very common method in the nonprofit world, but it works. So what that means is, so you link someone to your cause, you create interest, and then you basically make sure that they have the ability to give you the funds or the ask.
So
also known as ask, yeah.
So you make sure that they know about what you're doing. You help them be interested in what you're doing.
Right.
There's a subtle difference there. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, you create the connection. And then through conversation, dialogue, you figure out what their ability is for supporting you in this interest that hopefully is a shared interest for both of you.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So like what I can talk about as a concrete example in the real world is I was saying to you before, I ran a scholarship program for people in New York City that were adaptive athletes with my friend Omar, friend of the podcast. So basically with that scholarship, we created a link by getting New York City CrossFitters or global CrossFitters. I don't know where all the funds came from, but we created that in that interest of helping adaptive athletes within the tri-state area, and then asking for people to give funds, which I then gave to the athletes.
And how much money did you raise when you were doing that?
$1,500.
Okay, gotcha. I think part of fundraising and sponsorships that is tough sometimes is talking about money. So I'm trying to like destigmatize that a little bit. Yeah,
it's a hard question to ask, but if you don't ask, you don't know.
Right.
Right. So you have to, if you're going to take this, if I was going to go get funding for myself, I have to take away the stigma of what might be deemed as like me, I don't know, panhandling, if you will, for funds. When I'm in fact just trying to support myself in my career and my drive to become the best adaptive athlete there is and win, the games, so to speak. And I can't do that for free. My coach needs to be funded. Like there's time, effort, money involved. And that's just part of the game. You have to get rid of the self-imposed stigma that exists, because most of us, especially in this niche of a sport, along with disability, it's going to be very difficult for us to, unless we find benefactors, to do the sport for free.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that people have to kind of detach themselves. I can't speak for everybody, but you're not asking for a handout. You're asking for a hand up so that you can continue your sport and your drive. So you have to ask, and there are people who will help.
And it's almost like you're asking for someone to partner with you.
Correct.
Yeah, you're almost not even, you are pitching, and I think we're, again, trying to destigmatize some language here, right? Like you are making a pitch, you are making an ask, you are gathering information to see what the appropriate ask would be to make, but you're doing that all through the bridge of relationship.
Correct. And I think the other thing that people don't always consider, although I've heard it talked on the podcast that we want to be representatives of our various disabilities, is we need to get the finance to continue to show people or the next generation that we do exist. You know what I mean? Like, and if we need that funding and if we have to ask for it, that's what we have to do. That's what branding yourself is. You are a brand. And so you have to represent yourself that way.
I really appreciate that, because I think especially what you said about the charter we have as adaptive athletes to sort of be able to be visible for people who need to see us. That's not just something that we say, hey, that should happen, and then we sit back passively and wait for it to happen. We need to take an active role in making that happen. So if you don't mind role playing with me for a second, let's say that I am a clothing vendor. You're an athlete. I'm a clothing vendor, and you want to partner with me. You would like me to partner with you for something in this CrossFit season. What would your conversation with me, XYZ clothing brand, look like?
So let's say it's a brand that I like, so I know the brand, and
maybe you use the brand. Yeah.
Right. So I say, hey, I have 3-4 of your shirts. Your shirts are really funny. I have this great idea. I'm an adaptive athlete. I know many of us adaptive athletes call us the misfit toys, and it's Christmas time. Could you make a misfit toy version of the shirt? And we'll kind of like endorse it, because it's kind of on that funny line of like, is this funny? Is this not funny? But we're loving you for embracing our uniqueness. And then, maybe if they want to put their name on the back and then figure that out. And then what I would do is say, hey, if you want the if we do this deal, like, could you sponsor me for $200 or maybe a portion of the proceeds? Like, I would start to work with them to see what they would want to do. And then maybe it hits and they want to do a little ad, like a video ad, and it goes on Instagram and it gets funnier. And then you find quote unquote influencers and they want to partner with there too. And then all of a sudden your funding gets much higher and the visibility gets higher.
Mm-hmm. What does the role of the athlete look like when the company is like, hey, can you promote, we need you to promote this as well? Have you ever been in a situation where you've needed to like post something on your Instagram page, just like hashtag ad or anything like that? Or have you known athletes? I mean, we all know athletes who've had to do that.
Sure.
But you're presenting a conversation that kind of would look like that a little bit as well, right?
Right. So I would say something like, and you see this with commercials all the time. It's like, I don't know the expression, but like there's this old commercial with the hairspray, and it's like, I'm not just, a member, I'm the president or something, like those,
Yeah.
like, so I would probably say like, I have 5 of these shirts and I love them. And so I collaborated with them, and the Misfit Toys, we call ourselves the Misfit Toys, and have a little like holiday cheer. And so they see that it's not just an ad. I'm not just trying to sell something. I have a cultivated relationship, and that there's this whole community behind it.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that does connect into the link, interest, ability part of this. The ability is going to look a little different when you're working with a corporation than it might when you're working with a single person.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's take that conversation then. If it were a single person, so Candice, you're approaching me, a much wealthier Matthew Hotho, to possibly sponsor you for the games. How would you approach me as Candice if you're looking for me to support you?
Let's assume we were in the same box, and I know that you're a stockbroker or something like that. So I know that you have money. You're always talking about the stock. So I'm like, hey, like, we work out at the gym together. We're at the 5:30 afternoon class, and
that's the link.
Right.
That's the link.
And then
right, yeah.
the interest is like, we've been, let's say you do competitions and I'm getting ready for a competition. So I'm creating interest. So you're kind of getting that drive, or you love the games. Maybe you're not a competition guy, but you just love watching it on the YouTube, And then, so I start stirring that up with you. And then the ability, I'd be like, hey, competitions are very expensive, and to fly there and to get there, do you possibly have a couple, let's say $500? Do you have $500 for my flight so I could get to the competition? I'm qualified,
Yeah. Yeah. And then hopefully what you would hear from said person would be, of course I do. Yes. I could definitely do that for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think for the listeners, go ahead.
And I think what they would probably actually say is, and I'm really glad you asked me.
Yes. Yes. People want to give. They want to give. They don't always know how. So as long as you kind of lead the way, and, people who are charitable people typically know how to figure out the weeds of it. Because like you were asking me before we got on the podcast, like how I've done GoFundMe. And one of the reasons that I do GoFundMe is they make it very easy to do like the donation part, so that the person gets some of the proceeds back onto their taxes. That's like also a link, an ability, like it all an interest, because people are like, well, I'm doing a good thing, I feel great, but I'm also getting a little bit of proceeds back in my pocket, which is always nice.
Right. Getting that tax write-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I assume GoFundMe helps with that documentation and all that of stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
That's helpful. Are there other tools that help with fundraising?
There are. You just have to either, if you do something like Venmo or something like that, you'd have to get an accountant. I'm not an accountant, but you'd have to get an accountant, and you'd have to figure that out, and they'd have to that's why GoFundMe and other charity, I can't think of them right now, but other avenues that kind of make it simple are kind of worth it, because they kind of do that middleman stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you get an accountant to help you.
So what would be some next steps for someone who is really thinking about wanting to get sponsored or to get some fundraising for the 2026 adaptive season?
I think it's all about cultivating relationships. You can't, and people may get upset with me a little bit, but you can't just assume that a sponsor is going to fund you automatically because you're X, Y, and Z, or you saw that ABC got X, Y, and Z. So you have to like cultivate that relationship and get to know someone. And I'm an introvert. I get it. Like I'm talking because this is a subject that's important to me to help other people. But you got to like make a connection. You can't just assume that because they are a CrossFit brand that they're going to sponsor you, or because you have, frankly, a disability. Like, you know, everybody's got problems. Right? Everybody's got problems.
Yeah. Everybody has problems, but not everybody has taken those problems and really taken the time to create a story out of it that is compelling to a brand or to a person.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly 100%.
So I think that might be another next step as well for some of the CrossFit athletes. I know we've been trying to do that. I think when I started this podcast, that was sort of an under the radar goal was, man, if athletes can get on here and start telling their stories, now they've got a version of their story that they can go share with a sponsor. Granted, a sponsor may not want to listen to the 30-minute version of it, but at least the athlete has done the work to do that and then can maybe give an elevator pitch after that experience.
I don't know if you'll understand this reference, so we can cut it. But the story, like, I think that the difficulty that some people face is like in South Park, they had the underwear gnomes, or what are the underpants gnomes? And it's like, you don't know. My
parents never let me watch South Park.
Oh my God. So basically, I'll keep it very PG, but like there's this story about the underpants gnomes, and they're like, okay, we're going to collect all the underwear. And then there's step 2 and it's blank. And then step 3 is profit. So like, that's so that's like the thing that's missing, right? Is like people assume they tell their story and that they're just going to get the money. You have to create the connection of whatever it is that builds you from the story to the incentive of the sponsor to embrace your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is... You're right. That's hard work. And I love that. Actually, I love that story though of step 1, steal the underwear. Step 2, blank. Step 3, profit.
Correct.
I think you're right. Many of us are missing that step 2. Step 1, tell your story. Okay, cool. But step 2 is, where's that impact? Where's that thing that's going to connect and is going to be different? It's sort of like a resume, even in some ways, or a cover letter, where you really should be tailoring it to each job that you're applying for. You should be tailoring it to each sponsor or person that you're reaching out to. Right.
So back to my day job, like I work in corporate and foundation. So like if I have an oil company that I'm talking to and I want to get fundraising, my story is going to be completely different than like a foundation that works in education. It's just going to be completely different because one is going to be more focused on, let's say it's environmental cleanup versus like helping inner city kids with how to like get their phonics up, you know?
Yeah. So as adaptive athletes, there are times in our lives where I think something's uncomfortable and, you know, it may be a new experience for us. And sometimes we can think, well, maybe we don't have to do this. Do I really have to do this tougher thing of reaching out to people, of putting myself out there with the fear of rejection, you know? And I mean, have you had a time where you've had to just kind of put yourself out there, or a way that this has kind of been solidified for you?
Yeah. So when my parents were told I would never walk. And so one day my dad was taking me to the mall and I was about 3 years old. I walked around that time. And my dad was just sick of carrying me. I don't blame him. I was probably a pretty hefty kid at that point. And he put me down and he was like, it was probably 50 feet or something like that to the car. It wasn't the first time I walked, but he was just so tired of like, I'd walk a little bit and I'd stop. And he was like, Candice, like, you got to walk. You got to do this for yourself. I'm not always going to be around to carry. You're going to get too big to carry. So the way that relates to like fundraising is like, you have to do it for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself because it cultivates the link and the interest and ability to reflect on you. It's more authentic as the person asking than say a friend of a friend or parent or somebody. It doesn't, it starts to break away those ties. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we have to take ownership of the process of our story and then trust that us presenting that will carry weight, have authenticity, have all those things, even if it doesn't look like anybody else's, right? I think the enemy here in this whole thing is the comparison trap. When we start saying, oh, I should look like this, or my profile should have this many followers, or,
Right.
you know, these things that we just kind of set these metrics for ourselves that aren't hard and fast rules, when the reality is it's our story and our authenticity that is going to make that link, that's going to spur the interest, that's going to get us the point to ask about ability.
Absolutely. It's like imposter syndrome, right? I was lucky enough to be able to go to the games in 2023. And it was very weird because I don't have a big following, but I work really hard on connections all the time. So like I would have these people who followed me and they'd be like talking to me like I was their best friend. And I had I was like, I had to like in my head be like, how do I know? Like, how do they know me? Are they from my box? Are they from New York City? Like, and I had to like think about it for a couple of days. Like, and it was just because I cultivated a relationship online. So these people felt very comfortable coming to me, even though like I couldn't really tell who they were, you know, like it was a little weird. It was weird.
Yeah, definitely. So as we get ready to wrap up the conversation, you were telling me that you're actually doing a fundraiser right now for a gym just north of you that you're doing some work with to help raise an adaptive program.
I'm doing some awareness for not my box, just a sister box. And I actually used to work at their sister box, no pun intended, a long time ago, Westchester Fit, and they're based in White Plains, which is about an hour north of New York City. And they're running adaptive classes Tuesday, Thursday at 9:30 and Sunday at 9 a.m. I typically go on the Sundays if I can. And there are 2 other adaptive athletes, I believe, there. And we're just kind of gearing up to train for the Open because that's what we do. That's the whole point. So I've been trying to help out with their just raising awareness for their adaptive class. So if you stop by, you'll see me.
Okay. And if athletes want to reach out to you for help with their fundraising journey or their sponsorship journey, how can they reach you?
Yeah, Instagram is the best way. It's Sky, which is S in Sam, K as in kite, Y as in yellow, the number 7, the number 2, the number 8, the number 5. And that's my Instagram, and that's the best way to kind of reach out to me. But yeah, you'll find me, and you'll probably link this in the podcast.
In the show notes. Yeah. I'll definitely put it in the show notes as well. But yeah, if someone's listening to this, like, I got to find this person because I need all the answers for how to do this.
I should preface this too. Like, I definitely don't mind helping out, but after a couple of questions, there's going to start to be a price involved because I can do that now.
Oh, good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, my encouragement to anybody listening to this is a couple of things. And then Candice, maybe you can jump in with some advice as well. But it would be to really think about your story. Think about the brands that you use. Think about the brands that, you know, the supplements that you use, the clothing you wear, that kind of stuff. But also maybe even people outside the CrossFit space, people you've met who have your disability or who have your impairment. That are non-CrossFit organizations, right? I work in a church, and oftentimes we think about how can we reach out to people who are non-churchy people? How can you reach out to non-CrossFit-y people to connect them with your cause? And then work on making those connections.
Can I give a good example of that? I just thought about this, and I don't care if anybody steals it, because if you have CP and you're in New York City, like, I think there's one other person, and that's about it right now, or a couple. One non-CrossFit like organization I could probably, if I wanted to reach out, would be like the Cerebral Palsy Foundation or the CP Center, which is with Columbia. So that's like a different avenue than that like CrossFit traditional way. Just thinking outside the box, you know?
Yeah, that's right. They have donors and donor systems there that would probably be interested in helping an adaptive athlete do something like that. So all you CP folk out there who listen to this, hit them up.
Right. United Cerebral Palsy.
Yeah. Any other advice you have for people as they're kind of getting ready for the Open, getting ready to fundraise for this season?
Start early. Don't wait. And also, like, make sure that you're you are giving a concrete, legit number. Don't undersell yourself because everything is expensive. So when it comes to food, when it comes to the flight, paying your coach, like all that stuff, it adds up. So start early. And you also, this could go one or two ways. I've seen it both ways, but you want to create awareness around your campaign, but you don't want to keep posting your campaign every day and expect a different result, because people are just going to become kind of like, for lack of a better term, blind to it because they see it every day. So maybe do like a video once a week, or like make something so like it doesn't have to be this big engrossing. And I was thinking about this before I interview, like if you do some sort of challenge, like I'm going to do 1,000 burpees or something like that, like do it something that's obtainable for your disability so that you're not killing yourself. I'm not going to do 1,000 burpees. I might do like 100 squats or something to say thank you. But like if you choose like a physical challenge, just make sure it's obtainable, that, that you don't destroy your body in the process.
100%. That is great advice. I think we all do, especially when we're communicating something, tend towards white noise sometimes if we're not careful. And then we wonder why it's not breaking through. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Candice, thanks so much for the time today. I want to get you on at some point to hear more of your story and kind of more of your CrossFit background. But you are a gift and an asset to this community. I know there's been other ways that you've helped this community that we didn't get to talk about on this podcast. But I know there's people listening who are like, oh man, Candice has done amazing stuff for us. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with our community. Again, that acronym for you to think about is the link, the interest, and the ability. So what's the link that connects you to this person? What's the interest that you both share? And then what's the ability that they might have to support you? And that's the fluid thing. That's the thing that's going to require the conversation. And sorry, I got to add one more thing on there. You were talking about, Candice, about like food and coaching and lodging and that kind of stuff. Make a budget this year about what it's going to cost you to compete, so that when you're going to these people or these sponsors, you have a number in mind so that you know what you need to get what you need.
California is not cheap.
No, it's not. Thanks so much for the time. I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast and for kicking off season 2 with us. I hope this framework is helpful for you. I think it really makes sense to understand what people are looking for when they want to partner with you, when they want to fundraise with you and be a part of your team, right? I mean, if you remember nothing else, remember link, interest, ability. Build a genuine connection, create a shared buy-in with the organization or the person, and then make a clear, specific ask based on what someone can realistically do. And don't wait until the last minute. Start early, build a budget for what it's going to take you to compete this year, and give people an easy way to support you. So if you want to connect with Candice, Instagram is the best way. At Sky7285. That's at SKY7285. And yes, she's open to helping. And she's also clear that after a few questions, there may be a consulting fee involved. Thanks so much for listening, for joining us for this kickoff to season 2. And if you would do me a favor and rate and review the podcast, that would go a long way to making sure that people find out about it. Give us a follow on Instagram as well, so that you can keep up with everything we're doing throughout this season. We've got a lot of episodes lined up already. I'm going to be doing some mini pods on Instagram too. So I can't wait for some of the conversations that we're going to have this season. I'm Matt Hotho, and I'll see you next time.